The following broadcast is a Nighthawk Network presentation.
Hey, what's going on, brother? It's Game Time Audible. I'm your boy Eric Buck, the Nighthawk. How you doing out there in TV land? But no, for real though. What's going on, y'all? It's your boy E-Buck. This is Game Time Audible, our sports podcast that we do on the week. And we are here to talk sports with two people this weekend. Of course, I do this quality podcast with my partner in crime, the one and only Hugh D. Lee, known as the Sports Guru. What up, you?
What's up, B man? How everything going, brother?
Well, you know, we maintaining, bro. That's all we can ask for. We is maintaining.
Got some news. Got some news I wasn't too thrilled with, man. It ain't nothing too bad, but it was sports related, man. I'm seeing the Tar Heels leading the score back in the portal after decommitting to the Michigan Wolverine. I was definitely looking forward to seeing what Caleb was going to do, and I thought him coming over there was going to definitely be a nice little boost, but yeah, just disappointed to see now that he decommitted. I just saw that flash across my phone, and yeah, wasn't really acceptive of that news.
Well, keep in mind that's the one thing that people are not probably as knowledgeable about in regards to the transfer portal. There is that thing where basically, if you decide you want to try this other school and you go and visit and whatnot, if you ain't played for them or nothing, you do have the opportunity to reverse that decision and go back to your original school. So there are a few people that have done that. That guy just being one of them. I think actually one of the people that left from Michigan in the transfer portal for the football side decided to come on back instead. So that's something we're gonna do. And also keep in mind a little quick news in regards to the NIL deals. It has been announced by EA Sports that they are set up now to offer deals to all the NIL eligible students that are football players, so that if they want their own actual image and likeness in this next game that's coming out in 2024, they can be set up to do so and will be paid for such images. So that's good news for all those people who fought all those years so that the college athlete could get his fair share of the money that's being made by these conglomerates that's making billions of dollars off of them. Keep in mind, back in the day, that college football and whatnot, that was one of the bigger sellers, period, in terms of video games for EA Sports. So yeah, they definitely got the money to pay these guys. And again, you had an option to either opt in or not opt in. If you choose not to opt in, then basically they'll just put some figure that's similar body type and whatnot, but don't necessarily look like you, and you just get nothing. I mean, bottom line is, I cannot imagine a reason why you would choose not to buy into that, even if it's not going to be a bunch of money. Keep in mind, we're talking thousands of football players when you consider all the various teams just in the Division One. So, I don't think they're gonna get no buku money, but if they figure out to be like, say, 1,000, couple thousand, yeah, you want that.
That'd actually be pretty cool too, because Ed O'Bannon and O'Bannon brothers and so many other people before them fought for that just to get to where they're at today with the NIL deals, because they were pimping them guys, man. Before they'll make their money, and if they did it, they'll be doing some other hustles, and they didn't like that, and they'll get fined and get in trouble for it, and now it's just open, you get the NIL deals and ain't nothing else to it, man. And you're going to get paid off of your name,
Right. I
name,
mean, just
image.
imagine if they had the NIL back in the days of the Fab Five, just with some of the stuff there. I mean, just the fact that they changed how uniforms was made with how they did theirs. I mean, think about how much money they would have been entitled to You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they definitely would have been super nice at this point. The Reggie Bushes and the guys who they treated foul, man, for them accepting some type of pay,
Yeah. And
And
of course, I'm looking forward to however that game looked, because remember the last time we had a college game was probably what, like, I want to say like 2012. The technology is way better since then. We talking PS2, Nintendo 64 at that point. I mean, we up to 5 and Xbox One and all that. So the graphics are probably gonna be just ridiculous.
definitely can't wait for that, man. Because I remember the last time I played a college football game, man. Actually, I do. I was a teenager. I was like maybe 13, 14. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to what they do and what is gonna happen as far as the looks of the games and all, man. It's gonna definitely give the Mattins and all these other games problems because the
Hmm.
college game's gonna really step it up a notch, and I'm definitely looking forward to it because I know that's some of the games I'm gonna be getting, especially the football ones.
Oh yeah, because like I said, some of them years it was a lot more fun to play the college games than it was the Madden, depending on what year
Agree.
that was and what tweaks they made at the time. But anyway, just a couple of things to warm y'all up. In the meanwhile, the major meat of the show today is going to be NBA related. A lot of things NBA in terms of the playoffs and the hirings and firings, and of course, what happened last night in the infamous draft lottery. We're gonna get to all of that. I'm gonna have Hugh go ahead and set it all up for us. What you got, Hugh?
First, I want to briefly touch on a little baseball. There's not really much going on right now, and it's the weird part of the year, but something that interests me just recently because I put it in my stories on the Pure to the Game page. And Toronto basically was trying to pick out there, and they was definitely picking where it wasn't really no issues at. They was like, well, yeah, why is Judge looking over? And because he kind of glanced over and did one of those, and then went back to what he was doing. They thought that they were still at signals, but at the same time, the pitcher was a younger guy and he was tipping off pitches. That brought a lot of controversy because that was the night before, and then it was like a really bad incident where the dugouts was going at it because the managers was upset because they felt like the Yankees third base coach was a little too far off of where he's supposed to been at in his position. So I said, man, that's kind of petty. And I looked at that. I said, is that really to the point where you feel like that's too petty, or you just feel like right now they don't got nothing else to talk about in baseball, and that's why they brought up those topics because right now it seemed like the Yankees been handling the Blue Jays. They lost the first two games. I don't know if they're going to have a 3 or 4 game set, but they've been making light work out of the Blue Jays. So do you think that's some of the reason why they have stuff to try to nitpick on and bring to the series?
This is much ado about nothing, as you said. They have done some follow up since our last report. The young pitcher Jay Jackson, who is the person that is said to have been tipping his pitches, he basically admitted, yeah, I was tipping my pitches. When I look back at the tape, I saw I was tipping my pitches, and basically they could tell when I was throwing a fastball. And Aaron Judge, being a veteran hitter and wise beyond his years in regards to that, he caught it and he handled it. And basically, his reaction was from them having something to say on a Toronto end. But in the end, if your pitcher is not handling the proper business and he tips his pitches, that's baseball, baby. That's part of the game.
Hmm.
Aaron got that, he got that. So be it. So yeah, it's much ado about nothing. We can move on.
Yeah, because I definitely feel like Toronto, they got their number and they had it last year and they have it this year. Okay, man. I definitely want to get into the big news now. I want to talk about first and foremost the Monty Williams firing. Man, did you hear about? They said KD and Devin Booker was involved with that firing. Like they put their 2 cents in to get him out of Phoenix.
Well, my friends, here we go again. It's certain players that are being attributed to getting rid of coaches. And a lot of that's going to come into play into today's conversations about coaches. Uh, Perfect example, one KD, Kevin Durant. Let's go back to the very beginning of the season when he was a member of the Brooklyn Nets. And the coach there was a man by the name of Steve Nash. After I think it was maybe 6 or 7 games, lo and behold, Nash was fired. I believe they had a winning record at that point, even when they fired him. But basically, they said the main reason why he was let go was because the team leaders was not feeling his vision of where they should be at. And when we talk team leaders, we talking Kyrie and KD, both players known for having coaches fired in the past. So it's no surprise that KD's name in that. And in the end, I think it's more KD than it is Booker because Booker ain't really been associated with nothing like that up until this point. But KD, Kyrie, James Harden, who we'll get into a little bit later, they all have been associated as people that basically complain about their coaches, and ultimately that usually gets the coach fired because the NBA is a superstar-driven league, and when your superstar not happy, don't play with it.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I feel like with Monty Williams, it wasn't nothing that he could control. It was just unfortunate. It was the luck of the draw. When you get a Kevin Durant, you had to get rid of all the good guys, the Cam Johnsons. You
Yep.
had to get rid of
Kyle Bridges, yep.
and you had to get rid of a lot of good pieces that made y'all relevant last year. You know, maybe they went out earlier than we expected, and we were stunned that Dallas put them on them like that. But at the same time, that bench was pretty deep. And now you get KD, that bench is gone, and then some of those players end up being stars on other teams, and they wasn't able to carry no load and really get that many minutes in. I'm glad that, guys like Mikal Bridges went and they flourished and they went to other teams and actually did well. But it's like this. When KD went over there, they had to get rid of most of their roster and they knew that was coming. I don't blame it on Monty Williams. I feel like more or less it's just to the point where when you lose that much and the players don't go out there and perform, Chris Paul's always hurt. KD's not healthy ever since he had that Achilles injury. He's never been the same. And it seems like he complained a lot more ever since that happened. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, that one's one I felt like they shouldn't have fired him. But Michael Budenholzer, we thought that he was going to go the year and they won a championship. Somehow they just pulled it out. But yeah, like guys like that, it's like their time came. And then that's coming to the next topic too about we'll talk about that after you talk your opinions on Monty Williams firing. We're gonna roll and we're gonna get into the Doc Rivers, afterwards.
Well, see, like I said, as we will note, there have been several firings in the last couple of weeks in the NBA, and most of these firings in the last couple of weeks are from teams that actually made it to the playoffs. So it's kind of surprised. Right now, we have 5 open positions in the NBA in terms of teams. You basically now have Milwaukee that needs a coach, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Toronto, and of course our damn Detroit Pistons. But all that being said, as far as Monty goes, I think out of any of those coaches that we are mentioning, that's the one I felt least likely should have got fired.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
Monty Williams is basically what you are looking for in a coach. He is a person who's played in the league. He is good at player development. He basically does a pretty good job of managing the bench and whatnot when he has a bench available, that is. And he's pretty good at dealing with personalities and whatnot. And before this season, there was no discussion whatsoever about Monty Williams being fired. Unlike with some of these other folks we're gonna mention, his seat was never hot up until it was. So I'm really trying to understand what happened there. And again, when you look at it and dissect it down, I think KD had a lot to do with that.
That's so weird to me too, with the fact that all this was going on with Bonnie Williams. Because when you look at it, it's so funny how things happen and how one year can change the complexity of everything. What happened last year with the Phoenix Suns? Him and Monty Williams and DeAndre Ayton wasn't seeing eye to eye.
Right, and of course he probably had something to do with that move as well.
I definitely felt that way. That's why I was about to go with it. If anybody has something to do with it, I'm gonna say it'll be more or less KD and DeAndre Ayton versus Devin Booker, because he don't even seem like he's molded that way. It's a possibility, he could probably be hiding behind his light skin, soul, but at the same time, I just don't feel like that he would really do something like that. But
That being said, though, you gotta remember, Book did date a Kardashian. And there's something about them dudes that date Kardashians that some don't
They
always
lose,
be right, you know.
they lose their damn minds, better yet.
That's some powerful people.
When it comes to Doc Rivers, man, I'm not going to even really get into all of it. I just wanted to spew my half. It was just time for a younger coach or someone to step up and step in his situation because I just feel like he got what he could out of the team, but I feel like the team wasn't giving him enough, because everybody was pointing the finger at Doc, but then Doc ain't out there hooping. Some of that went on James Harden, his lackluster performances, but at the same time, being an MVP, what they say on the Spider-Man movies,
With great Billy comes with great responsibility comes some to that effect.
Great power comes great
Great responsibility.
responsibilities.
There you go.
And the situation is this: he got that MVP vote. He got the leading votes and got everything he wanted. We even looked at it and said, man, he could have got it back to back years. When Jokic got the back to back years. I feel like now the Joker's over that. He's like, man, I don't care about no MVPs, man. I just want to win. I want to go win championships now. I've got what I've got with my MVPs. I'm beyond that now. I'm moving on. I'm trying to go to bigger and better things. That's great as an accomplishment, but I want to do more. And I just felt like when Joel got that, I felt like he was going to elevate his game more, and he really did, not in the playoffs. Yeah, he got hurt. And, it's just sad because it's like him and Chris Paul always at the wrong time get hurt. And we had that discussion, we was like, man, he just get hurt at the wrong time. And that came back to bite him. But at the same time, I just feel like Joel Embiid do a lot of dirty stuff too, man. So a lot of that might be karma because remember in the series when they played Brooklyn, Claxton was giving it to him, man, and he tried to kick him in the groin, man. And I was like, okay, I understand that Draymond is a repeat offender, but that was something you should have definitely kicked him out for at least one game for just deliberately going after that guy's groin. And I said, man, when he do dirty stuff like that, only bad things come to him. And that's why I feel like their premature exit had a lot to do with just the way he handled himself, man. And that karma came back and bit him, man. Because we knew that he was hurt and he was trying to give it his all. But even when he was semi-healthy, it was just lackluster performances with him when they needed him the most.
I will say this much because that Boston Philly series really could have went either way because it was times when Boston basically didn't show up during parts of that series too. Particularly when we go back to that game previous to the game seven where for most of that game Tatum was a no show. It's sad because of course we talking about him as being one of the top 5 players in the league today. You are not supposed to be a top 5 player in a crucial playoff game and only have 1 point at the half. That's just ridiculous. Nor should you be an MVP in the league and have only 2 points in the second half of a game 7, which was the case with Embiid. So, yeah, definitely issues there. And, it's sad because on the one hand, the players did kind of get Doc fired, but in the same token, Doc has not improved on his formula at all. Keep in mind, most of these coaches that we're talking about in the last 5 years or period, in the case of Doc Rivers, they have won Coach of the Year awards. These are not coaches that at some point just kind of got into it and you got what you got. I mean, hell, even in the case of the Pistons, remember, Dwayne Casey was a Coach of the Year the previous year and got fired that same year when he was the Coach of the Year. And we ended up getting him, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out for him here. But I
Yeah.
think when it comes to Doc Rivers, I think we learned he's a coach to a degree. Some coaches are good leaders of men, but not good at the X's and O's. And some coaches are vice versa. I think Doc was a little bit of both, but not enough to get them over the hump. Like I said, I compared him a lot to Stan Van Gundy in regard to that. Stan was a good coach, we know this. But when it came to getting to that next level, he just didn't quite have what it took to do that. That being said, Stan is now an analyst and doing a very good job with that. And I think that's what Doc's next move should be. I don't think coaching is for him anymore. I think he needs to go back to the booth and be an analyst because he was a very good analyst at the time.
I feel like with some people, man, just like you said with Doc, there's a lot of things I had to say about him, but I still look at it and I just don't feel like he's great, like you said, at being a game adjuster. And I've talked about that before, and we thought that when Glenn Davis said that about him, that he was just basically being bitter or salty, but it's in his resume now. You know, you can see it now.
Right.
The
And
collapse.
going back, when you said that, when we talked about it yesterday, that also reminded me of some comments that Blake Griffin made in regards to Doc Rivers as well. So, they're not the only people that have.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So
it's
Mark,
quite a few of his players that had opinions about him. True enough.
feel like he was probably too passive too, but I still feel like he's a great regular season coach, but when it comes to the playoffs, he just don't cut the mustard, man, and that's okay. But at the same time, and I know that the NBA is a "what have you done for me lately" league, man. And if you're not giving them better than what you had, you the coach of the year, okay? You had that award. We want you to elevate your game and get us a championship. Out of all those years Doc was coaching, he only had one championship to show. So
Right.
yeah, I think definitely it's that time.
Yep. And again, because I don't feel it's completely on Doc, clearly there needs to be some shakeups in terms of the team. And keep in mind, just in terms of the NBA in general, I think it's going to be a very busy offseason for a lot of teams. I think the hot stove league is going to be real hot this summer. I mean, because think about it, with all the coaches getting fired, the next move is to move some of these players around. I mean, even today in the NBA rumor mill, they put out there that Dame Dollar is definitely putting some big heat on Portland to do something, and as a result of that, they are already saying that they are willing to ship that number 3 pick they got last night in
I've
order to
seen
get
that.
for Dame Dollar. But we'll get into that when we actually talk about the live. But yeah, as far as Doc go, he'll probably interview for a couple of these jobs that's open, but I want to see him go ahead and call it a day. I could say the same, to revisit the whole Phoenix thing. I think it's time, Chris Paul. I think it's time, bro. You need to go on
Yeah,
here, boy D Wade and Carmelo, and sit down and relax and just watch our kids play.
because that window closed when they didn't win. Prior last season. No, a couple seasons ago. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
in the finals against the Bucks. Yeah, I think that was probably his last good chance at
Yeah,
it.
I definitely was rooting for him, man. But in that note, on that note, hey, man, you can't win them all, and I just feel like he
Right.
just
I
need
mean,
to.
in the end, it's basically Charles Barkley all over again. I mean, Chris Paul, without a doubt, is a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I would even go as far as he's one of the top 10 point guards of all time. I would even go as far as saying that. But it just ain't meant to be for him in the championship.
this ain't meant to be. I want to go on and talk about your boy too, man. He's been hitting the airways for the last like 3 days. Mr. Ja Morant just seems like he can't get it together, and it's unfortunate.
Mm, mm.
You feel like he would have learned from the first time. When we're kids, when we do bad the first time, what do our parents do? They slap us on the wrist. Second time we do the same thing or make that bad decision, they drop the hammer. I don't think that Adam Silver is going to definitely be a little bit more laid back and, to the point where he's sympathetic about it. He looked at it the first time, was like, okay, man, you made that bad decision. You made a mistake. You got to show me that you could do better. And it wasn't even 90 days later. This dude still doing stuff that he have no business. And we've talked about that. I said, either you think it was a setup because it was on his boy's Instagram live, but he's flashing guns still when he know that he shouldn't even be in that situation. You shouldn't put yourself in harm's way when you know what you did and what can happen. And I'm not trying to dog him out and, call him out and, you know, say, he a piece of shit or he don't deserve, sympathy or anything. But when it comes down to it, you got to look at your last name is Morant. Your parents are involved, man. You making a bad name for your parents and your parents' brand and your brand in the NBA because now when you look at it, you're a 24-year-old man making millions of dollars now. Don't get me wrong, E. I feel like if I was that young making millions like that, I probably would have made some bad decisions. But now everything is on social media and everybody want to be on live. You don't gotta advertise that, man. Everybody want to advertise everything they doing now. They'll be at a club. Oh man, I'm at the club, and they even have it now where it's so bad that they will have it where you even see the person location where they at and where they're going, and like their own personal GPS because everybody want to be seen now. And that's the part that made me upset. Like, why everybody want to be seen so much, man? When you could just stay low key and stack your money. And that's gonna definitely hurt him when his deal come about. Because you know they're gonna put clauses in this deal and saying if you get caught with another weapon or doing anything or any violent acts or anything that make the Memphis Grizzlies brand look bad, that contract could be void. They're going to start putting voice in some of these kids' contracts in the NBA. Most of their money be flat out guaranteed, but I think they got to start pausing and putting clauses on these contracts.
Okay, let me make two quick examples. One, who is the best player on the Pistons right now?
Cunningham, I guess.
Kay Cunningham, correct. Do you know
Hmm.
anything about him outside of the fact that he played for us?
No.
I'm assuming he has an Instagram page and social media presence and whatnot. I know nothing about him or his business. They're about the same age, are they not?
Correct.
Now, granted, he clearly is not as talented as John Morant, or at least if he is, we don't know because there's been the injury issue, but that's another story. But nonetheless, because you're a young man don't mean you got to be out here wild and free and what have you. For all we know, K might be worse than John Morant, but at least he seems to be smart enough to keep his business under wraps.
Yep.
Second example I want to throw out there. We talk about our young people and some of the things that they're doing. There is another young man about that same age that plays in the NFL for the Buffalo Bills. You remember that guy? The one who unfortunately got injured in that next to last game of the season against Cincinnati Bengals. Think about
Yeah.
what he's done with his platform in that time since then. He has been a pillar to community. He is somebody that I can say I am proud of you and what you have accomplished. Right now, Ja is an embarrassment not only to his family, not only to the NBA, but basically to anybody that looks like me. Because in the end, these bad situations are the ones that will be high profile. These are the ones we're gonna see on CBS Sports and NBA Countdown and whatnot. They're not gonna highlight all the good stuff that he might be doing in the community. Also, it's all about him and that. And then the people that are being overshadowed because of your foolishness is not getting the proper shine they should for what they are doing. And of course, you got to consider that as we get into this whole new draft and prospects. And there's a couple people that we already know in the NBA draft that is got some questionable stuff associated with them, and particularly that Brandon Miller character that's basically being associated with us at the number five pick. But again, we'll get into that. I mean, long story short is Ja, you had the chance to make all this right. We thought you was making all the quality decisions. Everybody started having your back. I mean, if I'm somebody like Jalen Rose, for instance, I'm so pissed off at you right now because that man vouched for you. He vouched for you
Yeah.
major. So much so that he set up that interview that you had with him to help clear your name and make you look better. Then you turn right back around and do something even more egregious when you think about the fact that not only this time does he have the weapon, but you outside in public, broad daylight with it and whatnot. Everybody talking about the grainy video. I don't want to hear about no damn grainy video. We know that was him. We know he did it. And then of course he comes out with that BS statement today about how I'm still working on me and what. Ain't nobody trying to hear that, bruh. That move right there has cost you multi-millions of dollars. It very well may have cost your sister, who is a very high recruited individual, possible scholarships because she is associated with you. And of course, it only makes sense to wonder, okay, that's his little sister. They look alike and all that. Do they act alike? Are they cut for that? Do they hang out with some of them same individuals? I mean, you got to use your brain, guy. I mean, in the end, even with all this being said, you still have time to turn it around at 24. But right now, your steps gonna be very measured. If I am the Grizzlies, I got somebody following you 24/7. I'm basically dealing with you like the Dallas Cowboys had to deal with Dez Bryant back in the day, and basically had somebody babysit you the whole time. If that's what it takes to get you to be right and not mess up the brain.
Very sad too, and it's unfortunate, like you said, because we
I
always
mean,
root for that man.
I hate talking about these types of things on the show, but when it's such to this degree, you gotta you be basically belligerent not to discuss these things. You got to talk about it, unfortunately.
He basically keeping the NBA to the point where they got a bad rep because we already know when the NFL people do it. What do we say? That's just what they do. But it wasn't like that in the NBA, especially when Adam Silver came. And more or less, it was just more people were being role models and being better men. And now it's not all of them. I can't say all of them because a lot of those guys been pillars of their community
Right,
and
the
they've been
vast
doing.
majority of NBA players are good dudes and doing well, not only with their financial gains, but just in terms of their platform. Ja
I
is
just
the exception to the rule.
He just got to do better, man. Because you grown, man. But decisions you make is gonna definitely hurt you in the future, like you said. That supermax deal, I don't see that happening for him. And then I think for the first time ever, they're going to start doing what they do with the NFL players now. They're going to start having clauses in there, man,
I
and they're
think
going to have like situations where their contract's going to be void if you do stuff like that. Because
I think
before they were going to be guaranteed, and that's it. I don't think that's going to be the case in the future.
right. So this is sad because in the end, you see that face. Most people that don't even follow NBA like that will probably know that face more than whoever was the MVP or the championship or any of that. Because that's just how much they're gonna flash it on the news. Because you know they like to put emphasis on the negative stuff over the positive stuff. Sad truth of the matter.
Yes, sir. And that's the truth, man. I know you finally saw the results of the game last night, man. I have to say that was a pretty good game one. Remember, we talked at first, the conversation I had with you was at first I didn't even want to see the game because it was such a bad game and it was such a blowout, man. They were almost up by like 20 going into the half. Then LA just made a run, a hell of a run. And they made the game interesting. A couple of mistakes here or there happened that caused them to lose the game. But at the same time, you got to give respect to Jamal Murray. I didn't pay attention when they said Jokic got the steal on LeBron to close the game. It was because Jamal Murray, man, he actually hit the ball and took the ball away from LeBron. So Nikola Jokic could get the ball and, to close the game out. But it was just a really good game, man. And some of them shots they made was impressive, like the one Murray made over James and the Jokic shot, man. It was like that was crazy because the guy don't got no hops, man. He got on that one leg and then he took that shot, man, and it was incredible. But that dude had like 11 rebounds in the first half, though, and it was crazy how
I mean,
many
because like I
rebounds.
said, I got some of the numbers here for the overall game. Notice
Mm-hmm.
that both the Lakers here and the Nuggets here, they only played 8 players apiece, which I found very interesting, considering it's the NBA conference finals, and they both have pretty deep benches. That being said, Jokic, we'll talk about his numbers in a minute, but hell, despite all that, you get lost in the fact that, as you see here, you got 40 points and 10 rebounds from
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Davis last night. You got Austin Reeves checking in with 23 points. And hell, LeBron almost fucked around and had a triple double in a loss. And understand that at one point in that game, the Lakers was getting their butts handed to them, okay?
It got to the
Second
point.
quarter and that early third quarter, Denver was dominating on both ends of the court. Remember, we talking about the Nuggets that are the leading offensive team in these playoffs, and the Lakers that are the leading defensive team in these playoffs. And offense definitely beat defense last night because there was some good defensive plays throughout that game from both sides. But in the same token, when the dominance was going on with Denver on their side, Jokic was unstoppable. For
Yeah, he
somebody
was.
that's not the quickest or jumps the highest, his skill set is outlandish. Remember, there was a guy back in the day, and a lot of people, actually, it was Colin Cowherd that mentioned this. He reminds you of somebody who basically, if he had been a little bit healthier, would have been kind of similar in regards to how he played. That is Dontella's father, Arvydas Sabonis, because he was definitely that type of player before his time back there in the early 80s and late 90s, where he basically was a big man who could pass, who could shoot, who basically had a great understanding of how things work on the court. So, yeah, I mean, right now the talk has been, okay, Embiid is the MVP, but should he have been? If we sleep on the Joker this season, keep in mind that, remember, there is an MVP for the playoffs now. We do have that award, and clearly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that is definitely the Joker right now. He is definitely the MVP of these playoffs. Even if they don't win another game the rest of the series,
yeah,
he is unanimous MVP as far as I'm concerned. I mean, because
that is impressive.
last night, Hugh, we got to mention this. The man
Yep, 34, 14.
21 and 14. To understand how great that really is, only 3 players have ever done that. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, and him twice now. Twice in the playoffs. He is the only person ever to do that twice. So not only are we thinking about Jokic in terms of multiple MVPs, you got to start looking at him as a future Hall of Famer with them type of numbers.
Do me a favor too, Ian. Put them stats back up too, man. Something that he rarely did, and he shocked me last night. Did they have how many blocks did he put up?
They don't show on this one, but another thing I'm looking at is just his shoot percentage. 12 of 17, 3 for 3 from the 3-point line.
Impressive.
I mean, for a man that's a 7-footer, that's incredible.
It's impressive. He had some blocks in the game that made me laugh because I'm like, that ain't his game.
With all that, he sure did.
I counted like at least 2-3 blocks that he had. And it was just really a fun game, man, because at first it got to the point, like I told you, I didn't want to spoil it for you, but I said, yeah, I'm about to turn the game off. So I said something without saying it. Then I looked on my phone. You know, you can never escape that phone that ESPN sound hit. And looked, and they was like, the Lakers, they way back. And I said, what? I turned that game back on, man, and they got down to like 3 points at one point.
Did not see that game. Understand? The first 3 quarters dominated by the Nuggets. The fourth quarter, whole different story, Hugh. It got to the point where the Lakers were only down by 2 points. Keep in mind, and I believe that second quarter, they was down by about 26 at one point. So to just come back to that point in the game, you got to credit a lot.
Was that when
Huh? What'd you say, Hugh?
Was that when Reeves hit that 3 that made him? Was that when Reeves hit that 3 that took it down to 2 points?
Exactly.
And
yeah. LeBron
really good game.
Last minute 3 from basically taking the lead in that game. He missed it, and then of course the foul shots, and they went on from there. But I think they
took that shot.
I think the Lakers may have figured something out in that fourth quarter of that game because remember, for most of that game, you had AD checking Jokic, and he couldn't check Jokic. Conversely, Jokic wasn't checking AD, and basically whoever they put on AD was giving them problems. Okay, AD actually showed up last night. So what they decided to do was kind of put AD in his own little box in one situation where he was the one, and they kind of boxed around Jokic, and the primary defender they put on him was Hachimura for the Lakers, and he did pretty good with Jokic that fourth quarter. Now if they kind of go to some of that and perhaps finally use Tristan Thompson for what I'm pretty sure they was waiting to use him for all along, this type of series where they were playing a big man and could use him for some minutes. I think it might be a little different story in game 2.
They definitely need to utilize him more. Tristan Thompson, man. But
Right.
the game plan and its own, man. You first and foremost, we got to give Darvin Ham his props because at first
Absolutely.
I laughed at that whole ordeal when they was getting him. I'm like, Darvin Ham, hell, he wasn't even a good player. But most times when you are okay player or you a good journeyman at best, it seems like those guys have a good ass mind for the game for some reason. I believe, and
Mhm.
I'm not trying to be funny because they dissect the game because they be half and half. They get on the floor and they're floor generals. A lot of them, they might not be a star, but they're good floor generals. And then, from seeing it, being on the sideline, man, it's a different game. And it's just really impressive what he did. And guys got to give him his props, man, because I
Right.
don't feel like people give him his props this year.
Right. And that being said, he was a candidate that they didn't basically put a light on these last couple of days. When we get to talk about potential coaching possibilities a little bit later, I definitely want to throw his name in the mix. But in the meanwhile, like I said, I agree with you. That was a very good game last night, particularly if you invested the time to watch the whole thing. Because I know it probably was quite a few people like you that felt like once the middle of the third quarter was underway and they still was winning by 20, it was a wrap. But like I said, the Lakers they figured out some things near the end of that game, and I'm interested to see how that plays into how they play them on Thursday in Denver. I will say that Denver crowd was very lively last night. That's the livest I ever seen in Denver Nugget world.
Yeah, they was really raucous, man. There's a lot of good play too. Big up to KCP, man. Caldwell Pope really made me proud. He was feeling some kind of way too because the last time they played each other in the bubble, guess who was on the team? Caldwell Pope was on the Lakers playing against
Mm-hmm.
them. And he just felt like he got threw away like garbage when they ended up getting Westbrook, which they didn't even keep Westbrook. So it was like, you guys got rid of me for a guy that you didn't even keep. So, yeah, I would have definitely been feeling some
And
kind of way.
another person I want to highlight in that game last night, Michael Porter Jr. Remember,
Man,
at one point, this guy was the number one ranked player coming out of high school. He was the player. He was Mr. Washington that senior year in high school. I mean, he was one of the top 5 recruits in the country. Remember when he first came out, he was injured, so that led to his draft stock falling, and that's how he ended up with Denver. But now it seems like he's the healthiest he's ever been, and I think we just starting to see the beginning of what he might become. So imagine putting them two together, Murray and Jokic, and a fully healthy Porter Jr. unleashed. Denver might be on the verge of a potential dynasty.
'cause we talked about that too, man. We was always wondering, only if when, Mike Porter Jr. couldn't stay healthy and Jamal Murray had that ACL injury that made him be out the whole year. And that definitely was a significant, upgrade to get those guys healthy and playing at the level that they can play. But then Aaron Gordon stepping his game up, man, and he's been looking good on the team, found his purpose. And then you got Caldwell Pope, you got
Right, I
Brown.
mean,
It's a
and
lot.
look at some of the people that didn't play last night. You see, they got T. Bryant on the squad. They got Ish Smith on that squad. They got Reggie Jackson on that Denver squad. None of them played last night, but I definitely could see them playing an important role later on in this series.
Yeah, because just really they got a really deep bench, man.
Absolutely.
But I respect the fact that LeBron James, Reeves, and Anthony Davis, man. I just been really proud of that brother just from staying healthy. I mean, that's something you should want to do, but sometimes it's just a bad luck hit him, man. I think more or less too that he needs to hang out and kind of be like a sponge with LeBron, man. Look at his workout regimen,
I
saying
told you that man
how
need to go ahead
LeBron get
and
in
move in
shape and
with,
get
with
prepared for
LeBron
an
on the
NBA
summer.
season.
He basically need to move in with LeBron and play my buddy, my buddy, my buddy, and me. Whatever I do, he need to do. That's what need to go on with him because in the end, if you're gonna be the future of the Lakers, that's the type of stuff that it's gonna take for you to be relevant long term. Because right now, you playing for your future contract. Because in the end, if you somehow manage to lead the Lakers to another championship, I think you're pretty much set. Even with the injuries, I still say they still supermax you yet again when the time comes. But if you basically conk out later on in the season, later on in the series and don't play for whatever reason, yeah, that's going to be one of those decisions they're going to have to make in the offseason. Do we retain you? Is it time to move on from you? While there's still some value left for you.
Because he gonna have to show up on both ends of the court too for them to actually compete.
But they need that.
And that's the crazy. And you expect that from LeBron, but now I believe they starting to expect that from AD, man. He need to score a certain amount of points, and he got to play on both ends. Where I think that LeBron can be more of a floor general. He has to be good on offense and have to excel in defense in order for them to even make the game competitive. So man, it's a AD, but he already know the type of pressure that he was going to get when he came to LA. So I'm just glad that he's rising to the occasion because we always looked at him as a talented dude when he was in New Orleans. So it's just now we're starting to get a healthy Anthony Davis, and we really starting to see how good this brother is. And because most times people laugh at him, when he get injured. But yeah, it's a shame, man. And I usually don't laugh at people, shortcomings or if they get hurt. But man, it was crazy when Shaq and Barkley was laughing when they said he got hurt and he had a concussion. Like, damn, y'all laughing at that? But then I believe that Kenny was acting like he was in a wheelchair, and I said, man, like, dude. Like, it's like the old school dudes have no chill, man. You should, have more empathy or feel bad for them guys and want them to, do better or have better, man.
Well, we got to remember, for a lot of these injuries it seems like these players have now, they play through that type of stuff. Let's go to this character, for example. Many of the injuries that it seems that he has seem like stuff that he could have played through to some degree, but it's pretty much basically when he prick a finger, I'm hurt, and I can't play unless I'm 100%. I got to talk about that damn Kawhi Leonard. Same thing. It seems like the minute he get a little bit of pain, oh no, I got to shut it down. Oh no, I can't play like this.
Very talented brother too, Kawhi, and I feel bad, man. It's just he look at it like he doing what's best for him. He don't give a damn about LA Clippers or their brand or anyone else, man. He's looking out for number one. And before, we've talked about this several times. When Popovich said what he said, at first I was like, damn, Popovich was out of pocket for saying that. But he was like, I don't know what's wrong with him. We've been trying to figure out what's happening with him, man. You talk to Kawhi and his people. I think he felt like that was throwing shade at him at first. But now you look at it, man, it's like Kawhi, only look out for Kawhi, man. And I feel like, it didn't help them championship-wise in San Antonio, but I think Pop was more at peace, and he definitely going to be more at peace now. And we're about to get to that next conversation.
Just hold on to that now. You don't go there yet. Like I said, we'll have that discussion, but before we do that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we got to discuss something important, and then, of course, we'll get into the Eastern Conference side of the finals, as well as what happened in last night's NBA Draft Lottery, which Hugh kind of slightly previewed just then. But let's get this commercial or two in, and when we come back to Game Time Audible, more NBA playoff talk, baby. You know what it is. Here we go.
Nikki. Let's talk.
Hey, this is Eric Buckner here in the Nighthawk Network studios. And for those of you that have pet care, grooming, and vet needs, we want you to contact here in the Detroit area, Meet You There Pet Care. That's Meet You There Pet Care, LLC. The phone number is 313-471-4970. So for those of you that have pet care needs here in the Detroit area, please contact Meet You There Pet Care. They will get you situated with all your home pet care, grooming, and vet tech services. And do know that we want to promote all small and minority businesses here in the Nighthawk Network. Make sure you contact me on the Nighthawk Network Detroit page or on Eric Buckner Messenger or Eric Hawk 45 Instagram to get your thing promoted here on the network. Thank you. Have a good one. Have you been scrolling Facebook and looking for that quick sports fix? Want a quick peek of what's going on in the latest sports news? check out Pure to the Game sports blog with the sports guru, QD Lee. He'll get you together. Check it out. Follow it on Facebook. Make sure you like it. All right, now we are back, Game Time Audible, me and your boy Hugh Lee. Now, before we move on, Hugh, we need to talk to the people about a little thing you've been working on during the week here. We all know about Hugh's Pure to the Game sports blog page and all the information that you can find in regarding the latest hirings and firings in the NBA and whatnot. But Hugh also has a new project that he's working on. And I want him to take time right quick to discuss this right here. Tell him about what's up with this here, Hugh.
Basically just me just talking about the topics of what's going on and giving my point of view of what's going on with like a lot of the stuff that's going on in the sports today. More or less like whatever happens, man, you know, just like with the firements of Doc and different things of that nature, the John Moran. I just give you my perspective of it, and that's just my opinion. I'm not trying to say everybody should even lean towards what I'm saying. You may agree, you may disagree, but that's my point of view, and that's what I do. I just get that off my chest and tell you from my side and how I feel and give you my point of view the best way I possibly could in the new radio podcast.
Okay, where can they find that Guru's perspective, Hugh?
You know, I put it on Pure to the Game. It's on Spotify as well.
Right, and also you'll be able to find that on the Google podcast. So basically, wherever you follow podcasts, you'll be able to find that. Keep in mind, we want to get as many people following that as possible because the more followers you get, the more places where we can thusly post that. You'll then be able to find it on Apple Podcasts and potentially on iHeartRadio Podcast, which would be great. Also, keep in mind that helps my guy right here get monetized for his podcast, which we both are trying to do. So again, there will be the audio version of my podcast, I Am Nighthawk, that you should be looking out for, where I give you my opinion of the newest episode of that. Check it out. There I am with the I Am Nighthawk. But yeah, in my next episode of that, when I'm going to talk about did I miss the dress code? What do I mean by that? You'll have to listen to find out. So yeah, both out on the Spotify podcasters thing. You can find it either on Spotify podcasters or on the Spotify network. Remember, you can get Spotify for free. So basically, you just put it on your phone, and then you can find the Guru's perspective. You're gonna look for this picture right here, a young Huey, and it'll take you there. And make sure that when you do it, please like and subscribe. And it's a question that he usually has posted in regards to that particular episode of the podcast. Make sure you answer that because we need the feedback. We need as much traffic on that as we can so we can get this money. We want the money. We got bills to pay, for real. Anyway, back to the show. We are not going to continue talking NBA playoff talk, and we basically going to get into tonight's game on the Eastern side between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. What's your thoughts, Hugh?
Man, before we get in that too, it was like you already know I talked about Doc on, you know, the Google perspective. Mm-hmm. I didn't really too much put a lot of that out there. You can go and you can listen to it, you know, on the podcast, but a lot of it too, you know, a blame I feel like unfortunately had to go with Embiid. I feel like, yeah, he be having health issues and hiccups and, you know, at the wrong time, but he's going to have to work on getting himself better shape and, you know, doing the things that he needs to do to get to the grit and grind of the playoffs and try to get to that next level. You the MVP now, so we're expecting a lot more from you. So this is not a free pass on you, but got to look into James Harden, man, versus the Celtics. And I just feel like it was night and day how he performed. He had the 2 40-point games. He had like 10 minutes in the fourth quarter. He had 15 points in that first game, 5 of 7 with 2 assists. I said, okay, that's phenomenal. because if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't even won that game. He put the team on his back. In that game 2 loss in the fourth quarter, 12 minutes, he had 8 points, 2 of 5, 4 assists. Wasn't too bad, even though they lost. I felt like Boston was going to come out with a vengeance anyway. They wasn't going to lose 2 at home. I don't care who you think you are. They weren't going to go out like that, not in their house. He didn't play in game 3. I felt like what he did was unnecessary, with the whole, going after the guy growing. But that eliminated him. That probably could have hurt them too. That's part of the part where I felt like he could have backfired with the team too, because how well they was playing it. Them not having him, that definitely didn't help.
Right.
Definitely didn't help Doc neither. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna look at the game 4. He had in like 12 minutes, he had 10 points, 4 or 5, 1 assist. They won that game. Game 5 was different. 12 minutes, no points, 0 of 1 shooting, 4 assists. He wasn't even trying to touch the ball. Game 6 lost, 11 minutes, 0 points, 0 of 4, 1 assist. The last game, game 7 lost, 8 minutes, 0 points, 0 of 1 shooting, 1 assist. Everybody usually was dogging out my man's Ben Simmons and talking about how his lackluster performances was and how they couldn't elevate and go to the next level. And it was so bad in Philly, because you know how those Philly people talk. And it got him to the point to where he wanted out of there. Now we're hearing that James Harden saying he's going to decline and he wants to go elsewhere. But why is he not getting as much smoke with the lackluster performances, man? Game 5, 6, and 7, he just was absent, man. He was a no-show in the fourth quarter. And the funny part is, going to the history of us all, it was just as bad as what Ben Simmons performed. They're like stat-wise, it's damn near neck and neck in this situation. But I feel like people letting James get away with it, man. They letting him off the hook. So where's that energy with James Harden that y'all was giving Ben Simmons?
I can't even do that. That's not even fair to put them two in there. I mean, I understand the numbers say one thing, but come on now. We're talking about 2 entirely different sets of players. Ben's a bum, okay? His mama called him a bum. All right, Ben has not done anything outside of his one All-Star game year that would indicate to you that this is somebody that we should be looking for in order to have a championship. I don't even see him being retained with Brooklyn next year. And at that point, who knows where that man ends up. Please don't bring him to the Pistons. That's all I ask. But that being said, James Harden is a
and I respect that.
Okay? Now, granted, much like some of the other Hall of Famers we mentioned earlier, the Carmelo Anthony's and the Chris Pauls, when it came playoff time, they play a little different. The pressure seems to get to these type of people. They don't play quite as well as they did in the regular season. I mean, we go to other sports. A lot of people had that same criticism of Peyton Manning back in the day. Well, yeah, he was a great regular season player, but when the playoffs came, we didn't quite get the type of effort that we was expecting. And it seemed like Peyton should have won a lot more Super Bowls than he did. Just like you feel like James Harden should have won a lot more championships, which he has, which is 0, of course. But when all is said and done, he's probably one of the major blames on that squad, particularly when it came down to getting Doc booted. Because again, much like we said earlier, he is definitely a coach killer in his own right. As Mike D'Antoni, as that dude, as the coach from OKC that is now in Washington, Donovan. I mean, it's been going on pretty much his entire career. It's everybody's fault but mine. You know what I'm saying? And bottom line is, it's ludicrous that not only is he talking about voiding his last player incentive deal with the Sixers, which makes sense because they'd be stupid to resign him anyway. But now he wants to go somewhere with a younger roster of up and comings that are on the verge of the playoffs and wants to get a 4-year deal. at age 33,
Yeah, to me, the
based on
4 year
what?
deal part, that part.
I can't see it. Because not only does he want the 4 year deal, he wants big money in that 4 year deal. And I don't think he is I don't think he's no more worthy of that than Kyrie is for that matter.
And I was surprised too. You know, we talked about it. He when Tatum said what he said after game 6, I said, man, is he saying a little more than you know, taking on more that he can dissect, or
Now
you
you gotta
know, is he really that
you gotta tell the people what he said.
he said, man, respectively, I'm one of the best basketball players in the world. He hit him with the LeBron James line. And I said, man, he better hope that don't come back to bite him. But in that game 7, he showed us the real deal, because in that game 6, the game 6, he didn't really do nothing. That dude had 1 point at the half. But then the 16 points that he scored in that fourth quarter basically let me know, like, yeah, man, okay, he took that team on his back and he won that game single handedly for them to take it back to Boston. Then when they went to Boston, man, that game wasn't even close, man. That dude threw up a 51 piece.
Right. I mean, in the end, what it boils down to is if you are the superstar on my squad and you don't feel like that about yourself, I don't know if I want you on my squad. That being said, you may not be wise to say that unless you really is. I mean, bottom line, if Giannis had came out and said that, I wouldn't have no problem with it. If KD says that, I don't have no problem. Lord knows when LeBron does say that, I don't have no problem with it. But you basically on that second tier of people, that Booker, Tatum, Brown level, you go there, you better go there. And tonight in game 1 against the Heat, he better keep going there.
Yep. Because you know Jimmy Buckets ain't gonna be sleeping on him.
Not at all. And it's sad because you got to realize in an ideal world, this should not even be much of a series. It's almost like a walkthrough for Boston, you would think, because Miami is without two of very important weapons, which is, of course, the great Tyler Hero, everybody's favorite six-man hero, and Victor Oladipo, who both won't be playing in this series. So you would think with that lack of firepower, Boston should have more than enough to whoop up on them boys, but we shall see. When
Yeah.
you got Jimmy Buckets and him having that mentality that he has that the playoffs is my time, I got to show up and show out. Who knows what may happen, particularly if we get down to a game 6 or 7.
Especially with the game management with the new coach Joe Mazzulla, and I just feel like too they're not even just really blaming it wholeheartedly on him. The inconsistencies of Boston, and they're making bad decisions when it comes to closing out games. So that's what I look at as well. So yeah, on this one right now, Boston should win this series. But like you say, E, until I make any predictions, I want to see what happened this first game to see where both of their heads is at, and then I'll basically let you know where my vote is leaning towards as far as who I think going go to the NBA Finals.
Right. That being said, I'll go as far as to say that yeah, I think Boston is going to the finals on the East side, and I'm gonna basically put myself out there and I say that I think the Lakers gonna go in the West. I mean, despite the fact that they lost game 2 and it probably should have been a blowout, I think game 2 they're gonna make them adjustments and it's gonna go back 1-1 going to LA this weekend, and I think we're gonna see what's going on from there. So, like I said, on the one hand they didn't stop Jokic, but on the other hand they didn't stop AD.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely would. Do you know how much money that'll bring to the league? Two big market teams, man, and the history that they have too, man, that'd be crazy. I would look forward to that myself. But
Right.
you
But
know
I
that.
mean, all that being said, if I wanted to go with the team I want to go there, I definitely want to see Denver. And I wouldn't mind seeing Miami play them, but I don't think that's how it's going to play out.
Yeah, definitely, man. I want to actually get with you too, man. You already know what time it is. I want to talk about your opinion and how you felt about the NBA draft lottery results. I already know how you feel, but I want to know how you really feel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whenever I bring the cards out, I think it's some type of game or the race car and all. I think a little bit of all that come into play when we talk about the NBA draft lottery. I mean, let's go back to the original lottery many years ago when a young man by the name of Patrick Ewing was the number one prize in the draft lottery. That particular year, New York sucked real bad, and the ping pong balls went the way they went. That's back when they had the little machine and all that, and they mysteriously won the lottery, and it was this and that and this, and then we got into that whole conspiracy about frozen ping pong balls and heated envelopes to tell you what was what and all of that. So we go back to now the present. I think everybody in the city wanted us to win the lottery yesterday. We prayed that we would. After all, we did by far have the worst record in the league. But I just could not see it. I mean, think about it. The man that was the prize in this year's draft lottery is this young man, by the way. And here's a name you better remember, Victor Wembanyama, because you will be seeing him a lot. And particularly if you are an NBA fan, you will see and hear that name a lot in the next 6 months. He is said to be the best prospect since LeBron James. And remember, LeBron was very highly touted and hyped. And in my opinion, he has basically lived up to all of that and then some. So they are expecting a lot of this kid. I mean, you take a good look at the kid, okay? That, my friends, is 7'5" or 7'6", depending on who's measuring him, at 19 years old and still growing, okay? This young man, again, let me show him again. This guy is a center-sized person with guard-like abilities. Not only can he handle the ball at 7'6", but he can shoot it from Steph Curry type range. He has tremendous defensive skills as well. He basically is everything you would want in a basketball player, and tall too. So that being said, he is definitely a player that they feel like will change an organization overnight. So that being said, when it came down to the draft lottery, the Pistons were one of the teams that had the three best odds to win the lottery. Not only did they not win, they got the worst possible pick they could get in the lottery, which was number 5. So, of course, yeah, many of you are upset, and rightfully so. I was upset, not so much at the NBA, because I felt like they did what they had to do. They have to fix the lottery because they want the league to continue to thrive and flourish. Understand, that young man could have brought all type of eyes and people to our city by just being on our squad. But then you have to remember, what's the likelihood of after his rookie contract being up that we will retain him when he has those types of skills? Okay, granted, we know as Detroit people, if that man brought us a championship, he'll have love here forever. He basically would have that Kawhi Leonard deal that Toronto tried to give him, where basically you could have ate for free and stayed for free wherever you wanted. Victor would have had it like that here, had he came here and won a championship. So that being said, San Antonio, the lucky bastards that win the lottery. And keep in mind, when you really analyze and think about it, the Pistons really started tanking once Cade Cunningham went out for the season. Would you give me that here? San Antonio pretty much started tanking at the very beginning. In the preseason, they started tanking in summer league. They knew they was going to have a bad team. Pretty much anybody of worth on that team, they had got rid of, gave away. Deontay Murray, for example, who they sent to the Hawks, and so on and so forth. They only retained basic person A, B, C for that squad. Somebody mentioned that one of the talking heads today. Look at the overall squads that could have had Wembanyama. Most of those squads have at least a little something to work with. Your Atlanta Hawks, Charlotte Hornets, Pistons, and Portlands of the world. San Antonio was the one team that basically don't have nothing. So basically, you got Wembanyama, and you just build all around him. You don't have to worry about whoever else is on that squad. You can start all over. And in terms of when you look at coach for that squad, as opposed to the other coaches, credit Kyle and Cowherd for this stat right here. Check this out, you. Out of those other 7 teams where they ranked 2 through 8 in the lottery, those 7 teams that ranked behind the Spurs last night, out of those 7 teams, they have had a combination of 25 different head coaches in the last 7 years. Think about that for a minute. Meanwhile, San Antonio in that same time has had how many coaches, Hugh?
Mr. Popovich.
Pop alone. And that being said, he is a championship builder. And think about it. When you think about those first championships, what was the main component in pretty much all of them? The big man. So definitely he is good at developing big men such as Hall of Famers David Robinson and, of course, the great Tim Duncan. So it only makes sense that you would have that man go to San Antonio where he already is slated to be a star and get coached by one of the best head coaches still in the game with Greg Popovich. So in terms of that, if it was fixed, I understand why they sent him to San Antonio. That being said, I'm still salty. And when you look at let's look at some of the rest of the possible draftees in this year's draft. I know that's kind of hard for y'all to see, but of course you got Wembanyama right there at number 1. We got Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, Cam Whitmore, Amani Thompson. These are names that y'all ain't heard, y'all ain't seen. We've been talking about Victor since damn near the beginning of the season. You know about Brandon Miller because of what went on in the tournament and his unfortunate incident. A lot of these other names that I'm showing here, y'all have no clue. So in terms of the overall draft, we probably ain't got much to work with. So with us having that number 5 pick, that just basically pretty much guarantees that we'll be back in the lottery again next year.
Again, pretty
So
much
when you
because
look at it like that, I can't be mad. And then think about it in terms of the quality of coaches that's out there for us to choose from. I think we had the pick of the litter a couple days ago when basically Monty Williams was fired and it was only a couple coaching vacancies available. But now that all these other coaches that got fired, I think it's going to be real hard for the Pistons to get that quality of coach. That being said, looking at some of that secondary list of coaches and going back to what Hugh said earlier about people that were in the league that weren't necessarily the marquee player, but seem to have learned a lot in their time. One person that I would like to see the Pistons go after now is one Sam Cassell, who is basically a champion with the Rockets, of course, has much coaching experience when you look at his time with the Clippers and I believe the Bucks and that's another team he's coached for as well. So I think he has more than enough previous assistant coaching experience. I think this would be an ideal team for him to get started with. I kind of look at it like the situation with Darvin Ham and the Lakers, where he basically had coached in a good place there in Milwaukee, and now has taken some of that knowledge to make a very strong team. So yeah, that's why I like to see the Pistons go after now. Of course, if they still can't get Monty Williams.
Yeah, because I would like that to be the answer, Monty Williams, but you know how it is, man. I just feel like sometimes they just don't give us what we want. So I'm gonna lower my expectations, but a Sam Cassell wouldn't be bad neither because like you said, his resume, he coached a lot, man. He did a lot of assistant coaches with a lot of good coaches too. So yeah, I would like to see him, man, and see how he can help develop the players over here because we got such a young team. And I think the sky's the limit for them.
Right,
Just
because keep
really,
in mind, of course, now they talked to the general manager today, and he basically said, we're going to work with what we got. Remember, we have a lot of cap space, so we will definitely be looking into the free agency market. But remember, this is Detroit, and sadly, as much as I love my city, I know a lot of people have a bad taste of their mouth when it comes to places like Detroit and Milwaukee, Indiana, and such. This is not
the
the
small,
ideal place where you look to come to get your basketball on. Not to mention the fact that unlike states like Florida and Texas that have no state income tax and you can get more bang for your buck with a big contract, Detroit is not necessarily that. But, in the end, in order for us to be good, we're going to overpay for some folks.
pretty much.
And
Because
hopefully
remember,
it'll work like it did several years
Hey,
ago when we got Ben Gordon and Villanueva. Remember that? Where we basically overplayed for those two clowns and they really didn't do much.
yeah, because even last year they tried to go after Aiden, but it's like they're definitely gonna have to lure people in financially because we got to have an open checkbook.
Right. I mean, like I said, it's not like a complete effort. I mean, remember, the whole Blake Griffin thing was a shot to see what we can get done out the blue. And unfortunately, that didn't work out well for us due to the many injuries of that man who, amazingly enough, still finds himself in the playoffs right now. To the begrudgment of Pride. What's going on, Pride? I know bringing up one of your favorite bench players is probably something that's going to put you in a certain headspace. I know Blake is one of your guys.
It seems like he just keep tagging along on new teams too.
Absolutely. But
Man,
yeah, like I said, that draft lottery, they didn't tweak it too much now. I think in the end, tanking just ain't the thing to do. I think that's the lesson you're supposed to learn from yesterday. Houston tanked, we tanked, and neither one of us got the number one pick. Spurs, they
then
tanked. They did it smart, I guess.
the end of the season, Dallas tanked and they didn't even get a good enough spot. They was in the top 10, but they got the 10th overall pick, so that didn't really help them.
Right, and I believe it's Charlotte that had the number two pick.
Yeah,
Uh, we know their track record overall. I don't think that pick does them any good, no matter who they pick.
it's just funny too how good they were at one point to how bad they were because they was almost close to making it. No, they made the playoffs, and then they just basically
And,
bottoms
and,
up,
and
man.
as a person that look like us, we really want Charlotte to do well because, of course, they are the only African American primarily owned team in major sports, who, of course, owned by the great Michael Jordan. And you just want that brother to actually win something that we all can be proud of.
And it's unfortunate too, but I don't think, like you said, no matter who they get. How excited are you too, to know on the 19th that the ladies will start back, man, and the Aces will be getting ready to defend their crown.
Absolutely. Of course, here on this show known as Game Time Audible and in the Nighthawk Network in general, we are big into supporting our ladies, the women's sports, the women in general. We always love to see when they win. So when they win, we win. So definitely looking forward to the WNBA season. Remember, you guys that may have trouble finding that because you don't have cable networks and whatnot, you can go to the WNBA app and put that on your phone. Whether you get the free version or the paid version, you will get the updates and the scores and whatnot. If you do get the paid version, it will basically give you a game summary play similar to what you'll see on YouTube as to how that went in like 8-10 minute window. But also you can get the full game versions of it as well, so you can see the whole game in its entirety. You also can go back to last year or a few seasons back and see pretty much any game that particular team played, which is really cool. I think it's similar to that in the NFL on the NFL app as well. But yeah, they definitely will give you player profiles and all of that. I mean, just after that great college basketball season with the ladies, you definitely want this to be a good season. I think it's very important that the WNBA thrive this season so that when they talk about expansion, as apparently they will after the end of this season, there are several cities that come into play, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about that next week, where they may possibly get a WNBA team if there's a good WNBA season. So hopefully it's not a situation where the Aces just go and blow out everybody and halfway through the season we just don't have any interest anymore. Remember, the other team that you want to keep an eye on is the New York Liberty, who basically spent all that money getting key players over there, particularly the superstar in the last few years of the league, that being Brianna Stewart. For those of you who know my UConn Lady Husky lady, one of few people to ever win 4 straight championships in college basketball, male or female. So yeah, definitely want to see how well she does with her new squad. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to the season, man. And of course, all the new rookies that they got, particularly your girl Aaliyah Boston, and of course Maddie Seacrest and what she might do, and some of those other rookies.
And it's gonna really get things together and shape up too, man. Because we talked about this draft, and we was like, the draft was okay, but everybody's coming out next year, and I know that draft is gonna be way more anticipated. They need to do a little bit more with their draft too, as far as the advertisement and the hype, because it was kind of like, okay, we seen the picks that we liked and some of the ladies that we wanted to see, succeed, and then it just like it was crickets. Hopefully they do a little bit more advertisement and you know, I, I just put a little bit more liveliness to it because
Right. And
yeah,
of course, going back to the WNBA, two of the marquee stories we also got to talk about going into the season. This young lady right here, who pretty much is saying that this probably is her last year of playing in the WNBA. And of course, she is on that very talented Las Vegas Aces squad now. So adding her to a mix of an already great team, yeah, they may be very dominant some nights with her on the squad. And then, of course, everybody wants to see what this young lady is going to do this season. That, of course, is the great Brittany Griner, who now that it's free to do and be her, is back in the WNBA with the Phoenix Mercury, and hopefully she has a great season. Definitely, those will probably be some of the games you will see more times than not. Anytime that the Aces or the Mercury play, I do believe the opening game this Saturday, in fact, might be those two teams. In fact, which would definitely be a great matchup early on in the season. But yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. You
I definitely want to see good game play, and I want to see, like you said, what the rookies do and how well they fit with their team. Because I remember we didn't think Ryan Howard was going. No, I'm not going to say that. They said, "Oh, we don't think that Ryan Howard's going to just really right away. We think it's going to probably take her a year, and she's going to probably have to come off the bench and kind of learn from the veterans." Man, she came out there. She cooked everybody. Nobody expected her to be on the level she was, and I like that. And I just want to
I
see
mean,
another.
right, went on to win Rookie of the Year and make the All Star game and all of that. So yeah, she plays for the Atlanta Dream team, of course, and I definitely want to see how well they do this season. Because remember, they were in that same boat the Indiana Fever was the year before in terms of having to turn the squad all the way around, new coach, new general manager, hell, new owner for that matter. But they got all that together now, and hopefully they turn it around and make a decent playoff run. But yeah,
Yes,
that's pretty much
sir.
what I got, Hugh. What
Same.
left on you?
Um, that's all I got myself, man. Appreciate y'all coming in, chiming in when y'all do, and like to say, like he said, join me with the Purity of the Game. And now you can even hear my podcast, the Guru's Perspective. So I definitely have that platform. It was something I basically want to talk about or have my opinion and my point of view of what's going on and around NBA, MLB, and NFL. So if something come out that's like something like a really big topic, I will discuss it. And I believe more or less now you guys will like this as well, because not only will I put it up on my blog, but then I will give you my live takes on certain things that's going on. Like if there's any trades, in the NBA or anything happening in the NFL, or just basically in particular, I will have that out there on my podcast platform now too as well, not just only just the Purity of the Game. So you'll hear from both point of views. And like I said, more interaction on the Purity of the Game would be great. And I'm gonna definitely leave questions, and so you can leave your opinions on the Google perspective as well.
Absolutely. So out here, man, I'm still working on that. That's some of the stuff that we'll be working on when we take our little hiatus. Remember, after these NBA finals, we're gonna take a little break to go ahead and get our lives together and whatnot. And then we'll be back sometime in the middle of the summer to kicking with y'all about WNBA and the start of the NFL season and all that good stuff. So look forward to that as well. And meanwhile, for my boy Houston Sports Guru, I am your boy D-Buck the Nighthawk. This has been Game Time Audible. We will catch up next week, or we can do this next time of the playoffs, and hopefully my friends will play what we are watching. Till then, we are up out of here. Kind of kill that there. You know what to do, Hugh? Throw them fingers up, my guy. Deuces.
Game Time Audible is a Nighthawk Network.